Seattle Sounders 2021 MLS season preview. Wow. This team, again, another MLS Cup final run. Unfortunately, couldn't finish it off last season. Second place in the Western Conference, tied for first on points, 39 points, but of course had one less loss than the Western Conference regular season champions of Sporting Kansas City. A plus 21 goal differential for the Sounders. Another successful year for the Seattle franchise. Another MLS Cup final run, 4 in the last 5 years. Unfortunately, they did not show up at Columbus. The last game at MAPFRE Stadium, even though now they say they're going to play more games at MAPFRE Stadium this season until the Columbus Crew Stadium is ready. But don't want to rehash the past here with that loss for Seattle. Exciting times for Seattle in the 2021 MLS Cup run. Again, I say that because they're probably going to make another run to MLS Cup final. This episode, we're going to talk about off-season ins and outs, your designated players, MLS Cup odds, breakout youngsters, coach review, projected starting 11, most important players, first game of the season, and the predictions. Most important thing, predictions, ceiling and a floor of how I think Seattle will do in this 2021 MLS season. So make sure you stay tuned all the way to the end for that one. Before we get started on this, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on your notification bell as well so you don't miss any of our awesome American soccer content. And with that, let's get started. Players in, just a short list here for the Seattle Sounders in this offseason. Kelyn Rowe signs as a free agent. João Paulo technically is on this list because his transfer was made official from Botafogo, even though he was on loan with Seattle last season. Spencer Richey, goalkeeper, came in as a free agent as well to back up, of course, Stefan Frei. Then you've got Fredy Montero. Yes, Fredy Montero is back with the Sounders after years of being away, whether it being in Portugal, whether it being for Vancouver and other clubs. He is now a member of the Seattle Sounders once again. Players out. Justin Dillon had his option declined. Miguel Ibarra, same thing. Jovan Jones, option declined. Kelvin Leerdam, out of contract. Gustav Svensson, out of contract. Ramon Torres, out of contract. He's gone. Jordan Morris, loaned to Swansea City, and oh God, just breaks my heart thinking about Jordan Morris and that injury that he sustained at his time at Swansea City. Trey Muse, loan to San Diego Loyal of the USL. So more players out than players in for Seattle this season. A little bit concerning. Is Fredy Montero and Kelyn Rowe enough to replace Jovan Jones, Kelvin Leerdam, Gustav Svensson? Ramon Torres obviously he's come towards the end of his career, but Jordan Morris, I'm assuming he will be back with Seattle after the loan ends with Swansea. But can he come back? What does his future look like? He finally makes that move over to Europe, and then this happens. So what does his future look like after 2 big knee injuries? I suppose only time will tell. Hopefully he'll be able to bounce back. It's a different leg, so hopefully he'll be able to bounce back and do well. But it's very, very hard to continue playing at a high level when you've had both knees rebuilt. Just ask anybody who's had knee surgery that plays professional sports. But we'll see how that goes. Lots more players out than players in. But the players in, Fredy Montero's back. We just talked about it. Kelyn Rowe, also a good piece. It hasn't been the same since he left New England a few years ago and then went back to New England and whatever. But he's still a good piece for an MLS team. So now let's talk about the designated players. So 3 designated players for Seattle. You know them well. First one I'm going to talk about, of course, is Nico Lodeiro. Nico Lodeiro, the face of the franchise for the Seattle Sounders. 20 appearances last season, 7 goals, 10 assists. Almost a point per game average. I mean, just crazy. Playoffs, 4 appearances, 1 goal, and 3 assists. Had a great playoffs in that run to MLS Cup final. One of the top 5 players in MLS, period. I mean, period. There's no doubt about it. He is one of the best players in MLS and is year in and year out. Like, I know there's a lot of talk of who's the best signing ever in MLS. Is it David Beckham? Is it Sebastian Giovinco? Is it Robbie Keane? I think Nico Lodeiro should be in that discussion as well for the amount of success that he has brought to the Seattle Sounders since he's come over as a designated player. God, it was probably about 5-6 years ago now. Next designated player, we just talked about it, João Paulo. So he is officially signed now in this offseason. He's staying in Seattle. The loan with Botafogo has been purchased. The loan option has been purchased, and he is now officially a Sounders player. 19 appearances last year, 2 goals, 5 assists. Very strong player and a great compliment to Nico Lodeiro. Not the best numbers in the world, but in the position that he plays in kind of more of a defensive midfield position, 2 goals and 5 assists is still a very strong season in 19 appearances for João Paulo. So really like João Paulo and the way he links up well with Nico Lodeiro. And then Raul Ruidiaz, the assassin. 17 appearances, 12 goals, 4 assists. Playoffs, 4 appearances, 2 goals, and 2 assists. The man is amazing. How he continues to keep scoring in this league at the rate that he does is unbelievable. One of the best strikers in MLS, period. And these 3 players right here are the reason why Seattle, year in and year out, makes runs to the MLS Cup final. Having 3 DPs, 2 of which we know through experience over the past 3-4 years, Ruidiaz and Lodeiro are just huge, huge pieces to this squad. And João Paulo fits right in with them. So really a great core of designated players, and that's what's made Seattle so successful. And I expect them to do the same this year and make Seattle successful again this year. Now, MLS Cup odds, talking about the bookies in Vegas, plus 800, number 2 to win it all. Right behind LAFC? What? How are they not the favorites if it's LAFC? I mean, look, I think LAFC is going to be a good team, but Seattle should be the favorites. With what they've done over the years, being in 4 out of the last 5 MLS Cup finals, winning 2 of those, how do you not put this team at the top of the list in the preseason? Now, middle of the season, if they're not playing well, which again, even you can't count them out then, because there's times when Seattle will take the first half of the season off and then go for a crazy run there through the end of the regular season and then in the playoffs. But talk to me about it in the middle of the season. Then maybe I agree they shouldn't be the favorites, but preseason, they should be the favorites to win MLS Cup, in my opinion, hands down. So before we get to the next spot in this recording here for Breakout Youngsters, I want to talk to you a little bit about the join button down below, right next to the subscribe button. Guys, hit that button. Join the Sons of a Pitch soccer community. Awesome perks. We've got 2 different levels, $1.99 a month and $4.99 a month, the starter level and designated player level. Your support is amazing to this show. Helps cover the costs of, StreamYard for our live stream reactions and live podcast episodes, as well the overhead that we have, podcasting, hosting, all that kind of stuff. Really helps us continue to grow the sport of soccer here in the United States. So anything you can do is a huge help. And plus you get some awesome perks and be part of the best community in American soccer, hands down, on YouTube. Sons of a Pitch Soccer Podcast. So check that out. Hit that join button and become a member today. And let's talk a little bit about the Breakout Youngsters. So Breakout Youngsters section, this part of the show, for all the team previews, for a national podcast like us, it is very, very hard to know what these teams are bringing up through their academies, what they're playing in USL. Trying to follow MLS as a league and watch, anywhere from 13, 14 games a week at a high level is tough to get on these young guys. So I always go over to Reddit and say, hey, who are the Breakout Youngsters? And we got a lot of help from the Reddit community. Awesome community over here with Seattle. The consensus on Reddit and really helped me, look over these players was Danny Leyva and Ethan Dobelaere. Danny Leyva, 17-year-old midfielder, just a consensus on Reddit that he's going to break out this season. Apparently was getting some serious minutes for the first team until he broke his foot last season. And with the midfield the way it is, and we'll talk about the midfield setup when we get to the projected starting 11, Danny Leyva could definitely break out and make some minutes and make a name for himself this season. Started to last year, and the year before that got some serious minutes, but unfortunately had that injury. Ethan Dobelaere, 18-year-old midfielder, and kind of a good summary for these guys is a comment that was by T-Dub That's Me, with some awesome info. So thank you so much for this. Daniel Leyva got some time in 2019 and looked very promising, broke his foot in 2020 and missed most of the season. Depending on our new formation and whether we use Roldan as a right mid or a CDM, he could see some serious playing time. If they keep Roldan at CDM, Ethan Dobbelaere may be getting significant minutes in right mid. There's also Josh Atencio, who is seen as a CDM-CB hybrid, who could get playing time as well. Then there's a few youngsters who may compete for some minutes. Hapau, I'm not sure how to pronounce that guy's name there, and Ocampo Chavez, that could potentially break out, but we've been waiting for that for a couple years now, it feels. Great comment. It was just getting tons of upvotes there on Reddit, and I had to put it on the show. So T-Dub, that's me. Thanks for that information, man. And let's see if these breakout youngsters can truly break out this season. Honorable mention with a lot of talk in Reddit was Alex Roldan, but he's 24 years old, and I feel he already kind of broke out last year. So look out for those two, Ethan Dobbelaere and Danny Leyva, for the Sounders. Let's see what kind of minutes they get, especially in that midfield, which really for the first time in a long time is weak by the standards of the Sounders. All right, head coach review, Brian Schmetzer. What else needs to be said? The man just wins championships. The man just takes teams to the finals. The man is a hell of a coach. Signs the extension in the offseason. He's staying with the Sounders. Honestly, the only complaint you hear about this guy is that he is that sometimes he's a little off with his squad rotation. Sometimes the players are a little worn down towards the end of the season and or the playoff run. I think if he can get that straight, this guy's unstoppable. Probably the best coach in MLS, if you want my honest opinion. I would take Brian Schmetzer as my team's head coach in a heartbeat. So you got a good one there with Brian Schmetzer. So great job to Seattle for bringing him up through the system, being a Seattle guy through and through for a long, long time. And it's worked out well. So projected starting 11. This one a 4-2-3-1. The lineup that I kind of see the team trotting out on opening day. And, of course, this could change. It is March 17th at time of recording. Exactly 1 month from today is going to be MLS opening kick on the Saturday. Your first game is April 16th, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But projected starting 11, 4-2-3-1. Stefan Frei in goal, of course. Who else? You've got, from left to right, Smith, Arriaga, Yeimar Andrade Gomez, and Alex Roldan. The two defensive mids, João Paulo and Christian Roldan. The midfield, offensive side of the midfield, I think you've got Fredy Montero, Nico Lodeiro, and Kelyn Rowe. I just can't see. I mean, maybe this is where one of these youngsters is probably going to come up and make such a big difference for the Sounders this season. Is Kelyn Rowe being your starter? Is he still a starter in MLS? I don't know. He's getting up there, and he's 29, 30 years old. He's been around for a long time. I think his best years are behind him in MLS, personally. So, be interesting to see. But I think he starts the season out now that he's at home he's from Seattle. And I think we'll see him start out and then possibly get replaced by one of those youngsters coming up through the season. And then the striker, of course, Raul Ruidiaz. Who else? The assassin, the man just scores goals. You cannot start anybody else. They don't have anybody else that I would even consider to start over Ruidiaz. So if he stays healthy and starts banging in goals, Seattle's good to go for sure. So most important player, let's talk about that. This is the guy where if he has a bad season, then the team's going to have a bad season. If he has a good season, the team's going to have a good season. Really, a lot lays on this player's back, and for me, that player is who else but Nico Lodeiro. That's why I put the graphic up already, because Nico Lodeiro, the man, is the most important player for Seattle, regardless, hands down. If he gets injured, has a bad season, forget about it, Sounders fans. If he plays extremely well, you're going to make another run, just like you have in the past with Nico Lodeiro at the helm. So yeah, most important player, Nico, of course. All right, first game and opponent. First game is April 16th at home versus Minnesota United. A rematch of that crazy-ass playoff game last season. You remember it, I'm sure. Remember when Minnesota United was beating Seattle, and then Seattle made that awesome comeback, and just a crazy, crazy game. Obviously, it's the first game of the season. It's not going to live up to that hype. These players, especially with COVID protocols and whatnot in training camps and preseasons, it's not going to be as exciting as the postseason game. Maybe it will. Hopefully it will, but I'm not counting on it. But should be still a good game, and Seattle hoping to get on the right foot, beating Minnesota hopefully on April 16th, a Friday night game, one of the first games of the MLS season. The point we've all been waiting for now, predictions. The ceiling and the floor. What are my predictions for the Sounders this season? So for me, it's pretty simple. I think this team has taken a little bit of a step back with losing Leardom, with losing Gustav Svensson, with losing Jordan Morris and him out with the injury. I think the team's going to take a slight step back. So for me, ceiling is second in the West. I think they can repeat what they did last year. But slightly down. I want to put them as first in the West, and this team could still make a run for MLS Cup, no doubt about it. Now, as far as a floor, I've got them as 7th place in the Western Conference. This team's a playoff team. Even if everything goes wrong, this team's going to make the playoffs. It's Seattle we're talking about. The only team in MLS that's made the playoffs every freaking single year of their existence, other than Nashville and I think Atlanta too. But either way, but those guys are young, 2 years, 3 years. The Sounders were going on, 11 years or 12 years? This will be the 12th season now for the Sounders. So they're going to make the playoffs, no doubt about that. Those are my predictions. Second in the West is the ceiling. 7th in the West is the floor. And that pretty much wraps it up. So make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any of our awesome American soccer content. And we will see you guys real soon. Good luck to the Sounders this season. You don't need it. You're going to be fine. Great team. Always, every single year, they show up, and I expect the same this year. Good luck to the Sounders. We'll see y'all real soon.